should be going up.
All right, we're ready to go. Good afternoon, actually good evening. Sunday, October the 18th. Another edition of Soapbox Sunday with myself, Cool C the One, and my main man, Dan. Oh man, a lot been going on here lately. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing all right. A little bit sore today. I had to take it easy, but I'm good. I'm doing good. Doing good.
All right, I feel on that. Before we get into anything, man, how about those Lions, man?
Yes, I see they didn't blow the lead, so I'm proud of that. That's always good to hear.
Right. I mean, they was playing Jacksonville, who I think
Yeah.
only have one win, but
hmm
the Lions wasn't too far off themselves. So
Okay.
always happy for the home team to get a win. But as
Right.
many listeners know, I'm still a Steelers fan, and we 5-0, baby.
hmm
Let's go Steelers, still a nation. But I'm always
Yeah.
happy when the home team wins. So
Right.
football around my house.
Mm.
Right on. Let's go ahead and get started, man. Tell our listeners how they can get in touch with us.
We are Athena Protection Service, security service. You can get in touch with us on any social media platform at Athena Protection Service, or you can reach us on our 800 number at 1-800-951-4866. That's 1-800-951-4866. And I want to say this, we have been getting some phone calls. We need 48-hour notice to do jobs. We can't do jobs the same day that you call. So just a little bit of notice will be appreciated.
Absolutely. Great point. Well, hey, man, like I said, we had a great day in football for those you watched it. Not a lot going on with the weather. I mean, I guess I could say for it to be, man, October the 18th, as I said at the start, and we still haven't had any major weather, experienced a little bit of Indian summer. So no complaints over here on our part, man. Just getting ready to
Right.
hunker down for this winter months that's coming ahead of us, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as far as cold and flu season. Even more concerned with the current pandemic going on. How do we, you know, try to stay safe, and how can you tell the pandemic, the coronavirus or COVID, I'm sorry, from just the
Right.
regular flu, if it be a difference, how do you differentiate? As
Right.
well as dealing with the cold, because I know when somebody coughs more than a couple of times around me, I'm ready to spray Lysol in their face. So we're going into this time of year where it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. And
hmm
talking about that, do you have those COVID numbers update for me?
I do. Let's jump into it. We saw some increases here. Man, hold up, I'm lost. Give me 1 second here. Just went right by me. So let's see. All right, here we go. We got 144,000 total COVID cases in Michigan right now. We went up almost, I want to say over 15,000 the last 2 weeks. It's pretty high. We 7,000 deaths. Daily confirmed cases are 1,791, and COVID deaths are at 23 per day, which went up 10 over the last 2 weeks per day since we last were on 2 weeks ago. So we have saw some increases in the numbers, significant increases in confirmed cases, and the death rate has definitely gone up over the last 2 weeks from what we see.
Wow, those huge numbers. We can't say it enough. We need to continue to wear the mask, wash your hands, do the social distancing. I mean, I know we've been talking about this since March, and now we almost through October, and we're still saying the same thing. And I know as Michigan as a state, we are one of the top states for an increase in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a few theories out there, but interesting. We was talking in the production meeting this evening, and was talking about people who still don't believe it's real.
Right.
There's people who just believe this is a hoax, and I'm not talking about politically, the political parties. I'm talking about right in our community. We have people who just feels like this is a hoax, don't have a lot of faith in our government, think that their goal right now is really to, they can't really pinpoint what the reasoning is, but just not having belief in it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask you, how do you feel about that, and how do you think it's affecting the numbers when we have, a percentage of the population just out here who, I mean, and before you answer that, I'm gonna say part of the population that don't believe is true, even if they do believe it's true, the actions that they're taking, as far as the way they're moving around,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't possibly believe it to be real. And your thoughts on that?
Um, I I think that is going to continue to, cause us to have these spikes where you got people who are um, not taking the proper safety precautions. And I understand, people they just don't believe in it, and they don't think that they have to take those precautions. And I think that it's going to end up being um, some severe situation that'll cause them to believe. But until you force people to believe something, then they'll continue to fight against it. And I think we're gonna continue to see people fighting against it, and people not wanting to wear masks and not wanting to social distance, not wanting to be in big gatherings. I think we're gonna continue to see that as long as people don't believe it, or they haven't had that experience like we talked about earlier with somebody catching it, suffering from it, and in some cases people actually dying from it. A lot of people don't have those personal experiences, and when it's not happening to them, and in their mind it's not happening at all.
Exactly. It's almost kind of like the climate with the racial tension in the country, and with
Hmm.
police officers and things of that nature. So, great point. I'm not gonna stand here and use my soapbox time to, try to beat this over your heads. For any listeners out there, we need to continue to have a conversation about social distancing. It's time to start facing some true realities. Thanksgiving is canceled this year. And when I say canceled, I don't mean that the actual date is canceled. I just strongly
Hmm.
believe that it should be limiting, big, traditional Thanksgiving Day gatherings.
Right.
I used to go to multiple people's house on Thanksgiving, loading up plates, sweet potato pie from this place, dressing from this one. Um, we just can't do it. Or I said we can't. I won't. I'll just put it
Right.
this way. It'll be close knit. It'll be very, very small. So just something to
Hmm.
consider. But hey, folks,
Right.
wash your hands, wear your mask, be smart with the gatherings, and continue with your cleaning processes amongst your house. Hand sanitizer is huge. We're finding that whether you wear the mask or not, I seen a study just today that's saying that the COVID virus can actually stay on cell phone surfaces, steel surfaces, and others for quite a long time. I don't want to misquote the article because I don't have it here in front of me, but
Hmm.
you're constantly touching your cell phone. Let's not forget about some of the safety precautions that were pointed out to us early on in the pandemic when we were trying to maintain. Let's not forget those. That cell phone that everybody is attached about the hip with, make sure you're keeping it clean. So continue using the hand sanitizer. And if possible, try to stay with reputable hand sanitizers, because now people are in such a rush to get hand sanitizer out there. There's products out here that are actually being harmful. So if at all possible, try to use hand sanitizers that you're familiar with. No, it's easier said than done. But let's move on. What else we
Okay.
got going on you want to talk about today? Let's talk about it.
Let's see. Something I saw. We actually posted earlier. Was a law enforcement encounter I saw online where the officer was chasing a guy, and the guy was hiding his hands, and the officer never addressed it. And the situation did not go well for the officer. He ended up getting stabbed in the encounter. So uh, what I want to do is I want to show y'all this
Yeah, I like
how it happened. So I'm gonna share my screen for a second. I don't know if you can see it. Am I sharing my screen?
let me change from you. There you go.
All right, you should be seeing it. All right, this was the video here. Well, you see how my man's standing?
Exactly. He could have a shotgun behind his hand. I mean, behind his leg.
Look how he breathing. He's looking around. He's looking like he about to do something to me.
So this is body cam footage from the officer.
Right.
Okay. Originally, it looked like he had his firearm out and switched over to a taser.
He did.
Wow.
All right.
All right, let's talk about that because I see a lot of stuff I didn't like in that video.
Let me. It's still running in my background. There was it was a lot wrong with that, and a lot right with it. Um, First, I'm gonna say we wish that everybody had that level of poise and uh, didn't just start shooting, even though in this particular situation he was, you know, within his right to start shooting. But what should have happened first was he should have been asking that guy to show him his hands before he even got that close to him. You want to see what people doing with their hands is one of the things you learn in training. One of the first things you always want to see somebody's hands. You don't want hands in pockets. You don't want hands behind backs. You don't want people's bodies bladed like his was. You don't want to see any of those kind of behaviors. He was looking around. He was breathing heavy. You know, it was a lot going on, and the first thing I think that officer should have did was had a visual on the guy's hands to make sure that there was no weapon there. But even though we see, you know, that he had a weapon, he goes to stabs the officer. The officer pulls his firearm out and he still doesn't shoot. You know, he started chasing the guy, and then we saw him switch to his taser and tase him. Um, you know, just and a lot of times what we see is just because you can shoot somebody don't necessarily mean that you should. Like he had an opportunity to shoot him, he didn't take it. And then once the guy was running, you know, at that point, you know, you want to see a less lethal force when somebody's running away and not a direct threat. You know, the unfortunate contrast to that was in Atlanta when we saw the gentleman running away with the taser, he got shot in his back a bunch of times. Or even when we saw the guy in Minnesota getting in his car, he got shot in his back a bunch of times. So, you know, we just wish that, you know, that restraint was what we saw across the board, across the country. And that's not necessarily what we see, but, you know, overall, you know, I don't want to criticize the guy. You know, I think he made some of the right decisions. It was just that initial decision. He was just a little bit too relaxed for my comfort when he was dealing with somebody like that.
Right. And I mean, I will say that, because I feel like when I say there's a lot in that video that I didn't like, let me rephrase that and make sure I don't misrepresent my thoughts when I say that. I'm looking at that video, and the first thing that comes to mind for me is that, just like you spoke of, on multiple occasions on camera, we saw situations that were similar to that or almost exactly like that. And I get it that, each officer uh, makes these decisions in a split second. But I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like, in general, with us as Black men specifically, we don't get afforded this opportunity that I see at
Right.
all. There's such a fear when dealing with us that the first reaction by officers, and again, we say this, we're not talking about all officers, but we've seen it way too many times where we have to fear that in a situation nowhere near as severe as that, we still run the risk of being shot, not tased,
Right.
and even if it's not shot or tased, it's choked,
Right.
or
And
put
this,
in a position where we can't breathe.
right.
So again, happy that the officer survived that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, that just goes to show that the intimidation that a lot of officers have when dealing with us, and it's not our fault. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's on those officers to try to fix that. So
Right.
just
And this happened in Florida. I see people in the comments asking this took place in Florida.
yeah, I knew it was someplace south, just by the
Mm-hmm.
trees and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like it was someplace down south, so Florida. Okay, great.
Right.
But definitely, wow, that guy's gonna live to see another day.
Mm-hmm.
The officer's gonna make it home scratch, but still somewhat intact. So that's always a good thing. But man, I really wish we could be afforded more opportunities like that in these encounters. And I guess if
Mm-hmm.
we could give a PSA, and when encountering the cops, we tell our children, our especially our boys, as they grow up, we try to tell them how to act with the officer. But as you can see, like at the beginning of that video, not making your hands visibly available.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting that he was able to do that for as long as he was, and for that officer to get that close to him. Like I said, it's almost like I won't comment on it no more. We'll move on. Just glad everybody went home with their lives in that situation.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the guy was hyped up, and and like we don't know the officer's background. With the initial conversation I had about this, I can't say what he would or would not have done with somebody that was black, but he exercised a lot of caution in that situation. I just wish, and hopefully moving forward, and I think everybody to learn from that, not just officers, but even people in general. When you out talking and dealing with somebody in the street, make them take their hands out their pocket or back up off of them. Don't talk to people with their hands in their pocket and their hands not visible, because you want to see what they're doing, and you want to make sure they're not producing a weapon or something that can harm you or give them an opportunity to do something to you.
Great point. Going to the holiday season, just being safe and being aware of your surroundings. And like you said, we can't reiterate enough when you're talking to somebody who you don't know, especially when they approach you and not normal circumstances. Now it's getting dark at 6 or earlier in the evening. Uh, people like to do dirt in the dark, and I think about the next as well, just the heightened level of crime that we're seeing as we
Hmm.
go into this last quarter of the year. I feel like the numbers are being heightened just in our area. And when I say heightened, the crimes are a lot of robbery, a lot of B&E, and a lot of violent slash shootings. Well, shootings
Hmm.
are violent, I'm sorry, but a lot of shootings and even knife work. So if we can talk about the next story we want to talk about, if you got it ready. We had a situation here in Clinton Township.
Oh, okay. So that was let's go to it. So in Clinton Township, there was a man accused of slashing a pregnant woman's throat outside of the Clinton Township police station. He was ultimately arrested in West Virginia. She was at the Clinton Township police station because she had a personal protection order against him. The guy was her former boyfriend, and he had been threatening her through email and threatening to shoot her entire family. And she was at the police station to drop off the paperwork when he confronted her in a parking lot. Um, she's expected to be okay. She was rushed to the hospital, had to put several stitches in her neck. And like I said, she is 5 months pregnant. The guy left the state and ended up going out to West Virginia, where he was detained by U.S. Marshals there. And his name was Van Elst, Kevin Van Elst. So, I mean, it's domestic violence month. And, women always, you know, go through the system, which I think is a little bit flawed, because they want you to get these personal protection orders, and these papers don't really save you, which is why I think that um, if you scared and you got somebody that's causing you or threatening to cause you some kind of harm, if you can get your CPL, get it. Or if you need to carry a knife on you, carry it, because the police won't be there to help you when that guy approach you in that moment. So I think it's important that we make sure that we are not finding ourselves in vulnerable positions where people can take advantage of us. So I think it's important that, especially for women, to always, get comfortable carrying a weapon or having a weapon on you if you in positions like this where you in a dangerous ex relationship or current relationship and somebody is threatening you harm. Well, she was at the police station and got her throat cut. Just to tell you the
But I don't
seriousness,
know
and
how much focus you could have tried to shoot.
where else could you be and expect to be safe at a police station? And he still got to her and he still did her harm. So you got to make sure that you're capable of protecting yourselves if you can. And I don't think she was able to. Once he confronted her, she pregnant, and it ain't like she can run away, or like she was in a position to get away. At a point like that, you got to be ready to fight, for your life. and not necessarily depend on the police to be there for you. Because, you know, probably, you know, in most police stations, they're not watching what's going on outside the door, because one, they're not really expecting anybody to be outside that door but police officers or citizens coming in to make complaints. They're not expecting, you know, uh, a perpetrator to come to the police station and stab somebody in the throat or slash somebody's throat. It's just unfortunate.
Man, and you said she will,
Hmm?
you said she will be okay, the
Yeah, she
victim.
expected to be okay.
Uh,
She had to get some stitches, and they say she'll be okay.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Man, so that's very scary. You know, we've served PPO before ourselves personally, and I
Mm-hmm.
know in my experiences in serving those papers to individuals, and it's, you know, it's been for different reasons. People usually are very upset when they get served with those papers. You know, I've served papers where it was for domestic violence, or I've served papers for, you know, landlord tenant things, and in those cases, when people are served those papers, they're almost always very upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, the system, I don't have an answer for it, but you know, it's very scary. And how many women don't come forward and pursue something like that because that's exactly what happens. They're afraid that if I go forward and get this person served these papers, that's going to set them in rage.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of time, you know, the person that's the victim feels like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. You know, so we most definitely have some flaws in that system, and it's unfortunate when somebody's like, "Hey, I'm concerned that this person is going to be violent to me," and you know, all we can do is tell them, "Hey, this person, I want you around them because they feel like you're violent." Well, the violent people, that's just, you know, lighting the fuse to their violence. So I don't know what the answer is for that one, but it's very frustrating. And please be safe. Like you said, you know, you got to take it a step further. Unfortunately, you've got to learn or protect yourself, learn how to do it. If you're not comfortable carrying a firearm, you know, maybe some mace or something like that, just anything you can do to get that person off of you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we can't always partner up and have somebody with us. Uh, Again, just take heed to the things that you talked about earlier. With, you know, my suggestion is that you arm up. You know,
Right.
whether it's with a firearm, you know, a knife,
Or taser.
mace, taser. Exactly. I know it's hard to get
Mm-hmm.
a taser right now in our current environment, but they are available. You know, the taser typically costs anywhere from about 15 to about $50 right now. I know that's a wide range, but if you can get one, you know, something else to consider as well. And just communicate your concerns to friends and family. Don't be ashamed to let people know that, you know, this individual has you concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Now a lot of these devices, smartphones have, you know, where you can share your location. So just be safe. Um, so we're praying for anybody that's ever had to go through that, and hope you'll be okay. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of crime, want to double back. Wasn't on last week, but 2 weeks ago we talked about a horrible situation right here in Metro Detroit. Actually, in the city of Warren, we had a 6-year-old boy killed execution style, along with his dad's girlfriend, and then they also found the dad killed in a burned out car. And
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to update, the suspect has been arrested in that case and is, you know, in custody right now. And the details as of right now, kind of what I was concerned about earlier when we had talked about the story, is that it was something related to the streets. And when I say the streets, I mean some type of illegal activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it was. The father who was found burned in the burned out car dead was known associating with the individual who actually killed him, his son, and girlfriend. Were uh, in partnership to sell drugs and other
Mm-hmm.
things. And I found it interesting because I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but I said, man, the only reason I could see somebody wanting to do something that horrific to a 6-year-old child is because that child could have identified them. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, just like the child's mother says, she was familiar with this individual. She had seen him, within recent months. He just got out of jail doing a 7-year uh, sentence. He had
Mm-hmm.
just gotten out of jail back in August, and after he committed the crime, he first of all went home to look to see if there was any news about any cars being burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeded to start looking for expensive watches. So this guy had no remorse whatsoever, and I hope that the law will move swiftly and take care of this individual if this is the individual that truly did that. It sounds like it is. Won't bring back that 6-year-old boy, that father, and that other young lady, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully some justice will be served in this case. And I can't reiterate enough. Um, I know people do what they have to do out here in these streets, but man, if I could just give anybody some advice, old school rules, you keep your family out of it. These individuals don't need to be knowing where your family live, but I'm not going to teach you how to be a better, criminal. Just unfortunate that that situation happened. I want to
Right.
everybody that a suspect is in custody for that. And talking about crime, because I feel like crime is, we see so much of it going on. The violence has most definitely picked up. Detroit is still one of the highest murder rates in the country. We still rank very high in that aspect. And I think it has a direct correlation to what I want to talk about next,
Mm-hmm.
is unemployment.
Okay.
I think right along with the pandemic, as we forget or just have gotten complacent with issues that are arriving from the COVID-19 with the illnesses, but also the domino effect because of unemployment. What did you say the number was? You got those numbers there for unemployment here in the state of Michigan?
I had the second quarter numbers.
Oh, you did find a
Um,
second number. Why are you pulling
yeah.
those up?
Yeah, it was 35.5% for African Americans in Michigan.
35% unemployment in the African American community. In the Black community, we are at 35% unemployment. And this was before the pandemic
Right.
even started. So you talk about being behind the 8 ball, and now that the pandemic has had its toll on our economy, wow, we are talking about, that's a huge number. I
Yeah.
mean, especially when we account for less than 15% of the population here in the
Right.
state of Michigan.
Yeah, it's like 13% nationally. For black folks, it's like 13% national unemployment.
Wow.
But in Michigan, it's always higher. We just have a high unemployment rate in Michigan, and we have high crime rates in Michigan. And obviously, I think those two uh, connect to one another.
Oh, absolutely. There's a correlation between the two. And that's the frustration. How do we combat this number? You and I are not gonna figure it out on this podcast tonight, but it's just frustrating because people have to understand that the crime doesn't just happen because people want to commit crime.
Hmm.
This is the domino effect of what's going on when your community is not served properly and you have such a high rate of unemployment in an area. Have the crime is going to go up, and that's exactly what's happening here in Michigan. Look, folks, we got less than what we count of 15 days, not counting this even.
Hmm.
But if you had the ability to fill out your mail-in ballot or however you're going to vote this year, it's time you get in gear and do your voting. And I know that's not going to just solve the crime and everything, but most definitely need to get our local leaders to come up with solutions to try to help us get past these unfortunate numbers. And it's got to start with, making employment available in our communities for us. If there's jobs out there,
Hmm.
why are we not getting them?
Right.
And
Well,
people
first
think,
they got to pay enough. There's some jobs out there,
man,
but like we
man,
talked about before, um, the minimum wage is the problem, and the jobs not paying enough is a part of the problem of people having these issues. There's jobs out there, but do you want to go work for $11 an hour? That's the issue. Or do you want to get a couple of jobs for that kind of money per hour? Uh, and yeah, I think that's the struggle that some people have as far as the jobs issue is concerned.
yeah, you can't preach that one enough. Definitely, it's a huge concern because I hear people and I see it all the time on social media. My job is hiring people don't want to come up here and work.
Hmm.
It's like, are they hiring for the positions that you have? Because one of the individuals, which I didn't get into a long, drawn out conversation with them, but they are supervised at the job, and you saying you got jobs for, i.e., mirroring exactly what you just said. You got jobs for $11 to $12 an hour, and
Right.
ironically, this particular individual works in a hospital. So
Hmm.
not only do you want me to come in and make pennies on the dollar compared to what you making, while you're complaining about people don't want to come to work, and you want me to come and work in an environment that's less than the safety concerns are a lot higher. Kudos to the workers that work in those environments, but again, somebody is going to be a little more nervous
Yeah.
about it.
So right now
Uh,
in Michigan, we looking
an
at
essential worker.
965 an hour is minimum wage in Michigan. That's the
Okay,
lowest that somebody can pay you. That's $386 a week. Well, that's working 40 hours,
right,
which is $20,000 a month.
a year.
Oh yeah, 20,000 a year. Yeah, 20,000 a year. So that means hell, that ain't who can live off of that.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you can't even pay a decent rent with that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? Because they not factoring in if you making minimum wage or not. They want what the average rent is for an area. And given the area, you might be paying $800 or $900 for rent somewhere.
Easily. Right. So how
So
are
you
you
making
supposed to do it?
yeah, you making 1,600 a month before taxes. How you gonna pay 900 in rent?
And still got to eat, still got to get to and from work.
Right.
And
So
if
I
you
mean
got
that's
kids, you still got to try to pay for daycare and things of that nature. So yeah, it's real easy for somebody sitting back at home to say, "Man, I don't get it. There's jobs out here. People don't want to work."
yeah, they don't pay that much. That's why people don't want to work at them. So that's why you heard when Steve was on there saying at least give me 15, something I can work with, but you know, police officers don't make 15 an hour starting also. That's gonna be a tough argument right there. When you got people risking their lives in the street, not making 15, but you want 15 and answer phones in a call center. It's a conversation we gotta have that's not being had about how we pay people in this country.
Right. It's always set up for the failure. We will always continue to have the high rate of crime in these areas where there's high unemployment. They go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Very frustrating, but interesting. But like I said, I just keep putting that in there almost like a pop on your
Right.
computer
And I
back
see
in the day.
somebody threw daycare in there.
15
Man,
days.
you need a whole you need a different job just to pay for daycare. Like if you got
Oh,
kids
nine
that
times
little,
out of 10, if you're somewhere around that minimum wage salary, or I'm gonna be honest with you, could be $3 above minimum wage, and you still can't afford to uh, pay for daycare and pay an
right?
average monthly rent of $800 to $900 a month. You literally would only be able to pay for the daycare and the rent, and you
Hmm.
would not be able to eat and do anything else.
Right. Yeah, that's that is
So
something.
very challenging.
Hmm.
But that's again, once this election is over and who's ever in office, as individuals, we have to find ways to demand better. And as I always say, start in your community to try to change things. Um, it's a tough situation there. I wish I had an answer for it, but it's just
Hmm.
good to point that out so our listeners can. I mean, I know most of the people listening to us today, you already knew it anyway. We ain't telling nothing slick to a can of oil out there, right? So
Oh
it's a
no.
very frustrating situation.
Hmm.
What else you want to talk about? Because that's one that's really frustrating for me because so many people see the reaction of a circumstance and want to point the finger at that and not want to dig deeper and try to come up with solutions to the problem.
Hmm. I think we can. This is a good segue. We could talk about Ice Cube and Trump's platinum plan and the Lift Every Voice plan that Joe Biden came out with. Um, the election is counting down, and Ice Cube is
15 days.
oh yeah,
No, I'm saying 15 days.
yeah, it's 15 days to election, and all of a sudden you got Ice Cube kind of popping up on the scene. It's not new; like he's been talking about this for months, and he had his contract with Black America that he'd been working on with some issues that was near and dear to his heart that he thought politicians should be held accountable for. He mentioned that he would reach out to both for the Donald Trump campaign and the Joe Biden campaign, and he received a lot of heat for his actions that took place over this past week. Um, he said he reached out both parties. Joe Biden said they liked most of the plan and that they would get with him after the election and discuss some things. And Donald Trump campaign reached out to him and um, they asked him if they could talk about it. I guess they had a conversation about it, and um, then they went out on Twitter a few days ago and they said that they was working with Ice Cube and Ice Cube helped them with their platinum plan and uh, made it appear that he was endorsing the Trump campaign, which was not true. So he's been on defense the last few days trying to clear his name as he continues to call it a bipartisan issue. Um, my take on that was um, he jumping into something a little bit late. People voting already. Um, they used him. You know, and he was complaining about it being a political game, but the Donald Trump campaign, they played him. They got him on the phone, and he not understanding the verbiage in a contract. Um, he was on Roland Martin's show. Wasn't able to answer some basic questions. Now, my personal opinion, I think that his heart is in the right place. I think that he want to see the black community do better. He want politicians to be held accountable. I think that's what we all want. And Recently on Roland Martin's show, some of the guests on the show were explaining to him that, and he was saying why, I'm just now coming up with this, and Democrats ain't did shit. And they kind of pointed out to him that Democrats had been doing shit, and that they had passed a bunch of the stuff that's already in his plan in the House, and that Joe Biden's plan was extremely detailed. It was 22 pages long, and they were explaining to him that most of this stuff is already laid out in his plan and how they can action it through the Congress and into Senate once they had the votes. And they were explaining it to him that he needed to talk to the Congressional Black Caucus and to use his celebrity to push what was already established, in addition to what he had in his plan. And he was complaining that their stuff didn't go far enough and his plan was superior. And when they broke it down, it wasn't. It was several things in his plan that he didn't address concerning women, concerning health, concerning different economic situations. And it took that panelist to kind of let him know where he stood in this landscape, and he's new to it. And like I said, I applaud the effort and all that, but he kind of, like I said earlier, he wanted to get next in the game, and the Trump campaign just played globetrotter ball on him and just played tricks on him, and he wasn't ready for it. And I still don't necessarily think he's ready for this arena that he kind of jumping into. And sometimes when people work and do things for a living, and they trying to explain to you the best course of action that you can take so that they can get things done, I think you need to drop the ego and kind of fall back and listen to the people who kind of know what they're doing and been getting stuff passed, and that kind of know how to navigate through the situation. And I understand his point of view was that it's still, things still ain't done to his satisfaction, or to the results are not being seen. But right now we in a situation where Republicans control the Senate, and although all these things have been passed, nothing is going through the Senate. So we just kind of at a stalemate right now. I know I just said a lot, but your thoughts?
Well, first thing, great point, because a lot of the information, I don't think everybody has a full understanding, because the way it was played out to me over the last few days is, um, again, Donald, well, I won't say Donald Trump, but the administration, they made it, the Republican administration made it seem as though, I guess, how can I say it? They made it seem as though he was endorsing them, as we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same breath, they also, what Ice Cube has to understand is, or I shouldn't say Ice Cube. Let me rephrase that. What I think needs to happen is people need to understand before we cancel him. Understand that's exactly what happened. He went in not understanding the full, how we say, the full view of the political uh, climate, or that
Mm-hmm.
pool in Washington they like to talk about, that
Mm-hmm.
Trump always said it needed to be drained, but he's in there doing very similar things. But I guess for me, I just wish people could kind of look at and see that his heart was in the right place. And I'm sure people would say that about other black individuals, like Kanye West, for an example, who we just feel like he went into this election season trying to be a part of it, not knowing that would split the vote
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the black community, in turn would help, the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that's what Ice Cube's goal was. I guess, to make a long story short, I don't think his goal was to try to get somebody to vote one way or the other. I think what he was trying to say is, regardless of who's in office, I have things that I think that needs to be addressed. And the timing just sucks because it is the election year, and people do feel like
Hmm.
he's, you know, giving people the wrong idea and possibly trying to get people to vote one way or another. And I just don't think that was his goal. I agree with you that he really,
Yeah. So I've saw people think that it was individual gain, that he was doing it for himself. We've known Cube to always speak up for the black community, but we've seen him uh, shit on some people in his career. But recently, I actually saw somebody posting about him in the Big Three when he had an issue with some of his investors from Qatar, and he went to the Trump administration to get some help with that. And I believe they had a backdoor deal worked out, and this was in 2018. And is Ice Cube returning a favor? That's the question that's being had right now, and a lot of people questioning his intent because of his history with that particular situation, and now he's making this noise and attempting to appear to be neutral when he may or may not be. I don't know, but um, I mean, at the end of the day, I think as a whole, we want to make sure, that regardless of who is the president or who is our governor or whatever the case may be, that we start to hold people accountable for what we want and what we need out of the system that we are living up under. Um, and we've been preaching the same thing for years. So we tired of asking for the same things, and it's
man.
at this point, I think people are getting frustrated, and they're looking for some alternative actions. But technically, no, I don't think Ice Cube should be leading uh, our political advancement. I don't think that's
And I mean,
where it
Ice
should be
Cube,
coming
Ice
from.
Cube's a fan for years.
Yeah.
I've always felt like he's had, a finger on the pulse of, the wrongs in our country, and he speaks about them on many albums. But um, I think even getting into this, it kind of just snowballed. We got
Hmm.
all this extra time, people not on the road, entertainers not moving like they normally would move. Ice Cube in particular, he would have been knee deep into his big three basketball league this
Hmm.
past summer, which is an awesome league. I really enjoyed it. It seemed to be picking up some momentum the few years that it's been in existence. So I think it was unfortunately a little too much time on his hand, and somebody seemed like somebody brought up something, and he started talking about it, and it kind of just started snowballing. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but
Right.
I really feel like his overall goal was not what was being seen. And like you said, he stepped in it, and it was like he was going up against the Globetrotters. He just didn't have
Right.
a chance.
So, and I don't ever want to say, like I see in the comments, that Cube need to stick to the movies. We don't want to do that to people, because what if he would have stuck to rapping and we never got Friday? You know what I'm saying? And we never got these expansive ideas. So I'm not against people trying things. What I'm against is when you're doing something and it's not working, or it's not to the benefit of our collective good, and people are trying to give you some advice and tell you the proper way to go about it, and then you get pissed off and get mad about it, them trying to give you that advice, then I think that's where the problem come into play with Ice Cube in particular. And
Absolutely.
if people didn't see um, his latest interviews, and I'm not talking about what happened on CNN, watch Roland Martin Unfiltered. That's black media for black people. And watch those people talking and trying to advise him in his reactions to them. That's what I'm referring to. And I think that's what everybody kind of need to look at when not um, talking about a mainstream media. These are black scholars and journalists who do this for a living. These presidents of historical black colleges and universities. These are advocates for different groups for black people. These are politicians that are talking to him and trying to guide him in the right direction. And he was, getting pissed off about it because they kind of showing him, we've already been working on these things and we need your celebrity and your support and the backing that you have and that you can push this agenda further than they can because of the type of social media presence that he had. And to him, I think he wanted to be the face of his own thing and push his own thing. And it just didn't go over well with everybody else in the room. And it was just unfortunate to see him saying that he was willing to work with other people but at the same time being unwilling to listen.
Great point. We'll see going forward. I will tell. I will tell our listeners. We beat the table all the time and say, vote, vote, vote. People have expectations when they do go out and vote. But on November the 4th, the day after the election, if the election can be called that soon, I think we might run into a situation this election year that we won't know who our next president will, or the president for the next 4 years will be with the way voting is being done. Because the way I understand it is you can still mail in your vote the same day of the election. So how we could have a true number. Now, somebody did call me and I picked up the phone and answered, which is almost likely that I won't be answering any numbers. If you're not locked in my phone, you don't have to leave a message because I'm not answering the phone to any number that's not, you don't come up as somebody I know in my phone, I won't be answering it. But I got a call today, ironically, on a Sunday afternoon, and it was someone trying to find out how I was going to vote and if I was going to be utilizing, the mail-in vote system for this election. And I get why those calls are being made, but I'm not the one who's going to help you for whatever it is you were trying to accomplish by calling me and inquiring that information. I just hung up the phone and won't be, like I say, I won't be picking up my phone the rest of the year for anybody. So if you got a new number, you better shoot me a text message first. And then you still gonna have to let me know how I know it's you. You're gonna have to tell me something only you and I know. And you're gonna have to still wait 72 hours for me to clear your background before you can talk to me. Man, yeah, guys, a lot of stuff going on here. I feel like I'm in a movie, man, and it's not a great. It's not a movie I'm enjoying. Just the level of things that have went on. I mean, just if I could just a quick summary of the year, starting off with Kobe Bryant being killed and him and his daughter and 7 other individuals all killed in a helicopter crash. It's like what? I was still trying to get over that, and I couldn't believe that it happened. And fast forward, not even 2 full months later, we had the pandemic hit us locally here in the state of Michigan, but we know that the pandemic, or I'm sorry, the COVID-19 was affecting people in other countries before that. And I just remember looking at it and thinking, man, that's their problem over there, being naive that they couldn't come over here to America, and most definitely couldn't come and affect me here in Michigan and my people. And fast forward to, I was at my son's basketball game, and that same evening we get an email saying that the season is being canceled immediately. And I'm like, man, that sucks for the kids. And then we turn around and we get the stay-at-home order. And even that, I thought that was going to be something. And that was, just late into the second, almost the third week of March when that happened. And I kept saying, wow, well, by Easter, we'll be good. And I've, said this before. And then my birthday personally is in May. I said, well, we most definitely should be good by then.
Right. I was making fun of people who couldn't celebrate their birthday in April.
April and March. Like, we'll be good by our birthdays in May.
Right.
All our friends and family listening know we try to get together at your place for a May
Hmm.
birthday party. And, when that was off the table, I pretty much threw Memorial Day out the window too because it was so close. But I still had faith that by 4th of July, we'd be shooting off fireworks and having a good time. And that didn't happen. And with it being an election year, the politics started heating up.
Hmm.
We got stimulus checks that started rolling out. Actually, rewind a little bit. The stimulus checks started rolling out late April, going into May. People started getting the stimulus. And then another thing happened is within the stimulus, with the one-time payment, the government also said we'll give additional money for people that are on unemployment.
Hmm.
And the idea was great. We're gonna help small businesses. The plan wasn't thought out too well though because they ran out of money for small businesses. I think in like record-breaking time, it was like
Right.
less than a week. All that money was gone, and I found out in the streets that people were collecting anywhere from $900 to $3,000 a week through insurance fraud and things of that nature. And the streets were bubbling. The economy seemed to be on the uptick, but people were still getting sick.
Hmm.
And now here we are going, the summer is over, we're all the way into the fall. We're, like we said, 15 days away from the election. The insurance, I'm sorry, the unemployment money was cut off back at the end of August, early September, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're seeing the effects of that. The crime numbers locally have shot up tremendously. I know I've seen just uh, we know we have what the doorbells that pick up the video, on your
Hmm.
porch. I won't say
Right.
specifically because they don't pay us, so I won't
Right.
advertise on them. But great product. But
Man.
people are following Amazon trucks around like they're giving away free bread. I mean, the truck drops the stuff off. I've seen videos where the truck stops at a home, drops off a package, and as soon as the truck takes off and turns the corner, somebody grabs the package.
Hmm.
I'm seeing people breaking into businesses that I would have never seen get broken into before. If you have a registered your business and you typically leave money in it overnight, which a lot of people do, surprisingly, just so the next day they get started. I don't think it's thousands of dollars in there, but $150 to start off your
Hmm.
register is kind of common in a lot of these small businesses, and they're being broken into at record paces. So things are unraveling pretty bad. Um, so I say it's like I'm in a movie, and then within the last what's it been 10 days now?
Hmm.
Because politically we got our current administration who don't believe in the COVID is real, and during a party right at the White House, multiple people who got COVID after mocking people who were trying to avoid getting it.
Right.
Well, like the plot just thickens and it twists again. And then I hear not even a week later, the president of the United States has COVID.
Hmm.
But I'm like, but wait a minute. Somebody said back in August that he was going to say he had COVID and he was
Hmm.
going to say that he was cured of it and that it's a hoax and nobody needs to worry about it. All but like an episode of The Simpsons. So I say all of this to say that I just feel like I'm in a movie that won't stop. I'm scared for the end.
Right.
I'll be honest with everybody. I know I'm laughing and making light of it as I summarize the year in my perspective. But it's just unbelievable the events that have happened this year. And
Hmm.
all I can say is protect yourselves. I think the panic button is real close to being pushed again in multiple states because of the numbers of COVID rising. When I say panic button, I think that, unfortunately, we could have another stay-at-home order. People are already. I'm in the grocery stores a couple of times over the last few days, and I'm seeing an uptick in shortages in the stores again because people are like, "Hey, I'm gonna get started early. I'm not gonna wait until they push the button
Hmm.
um, to change things." So it's just this movie is not playing out like I would like it to play out so far, and I'm just really nervous. So that's just I won't call it a soapbox, but I'll say, man, this movie is scary.
Yeah, well, we still got, we in the fourth quarter. It's the last 90 days of the year. There's a lot of unknowns here coming up, but you know, prepare as best you can. I think for most of us, I think we need to, try to prepare ourselves as best we can for anything that may happen as we move forward with, whatever it may be politically or personally. Have a plan for what's going to happen with you in your life and how you're going to get through things.
Man, so true.
Yeah, like I say, we've been, especially with this little political climate we got, people, I've had several conversations the last 2 weeks online, which I've limited a lot of, just kind of talking to people about, their opinions and what they want. And yeah, for the most part, people want the same things. They want, access to capital, they want, jobs. If they're not trying to build the business and they will need access to that money, they want jobs that pay a livable wage. They want their kids to have a decent education, and they want to be able to pass on something to their kids. Um, I had a cousin talking to me about generational wealth, which is an extremely conservative idea to have. But I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. We're wanting to pass on things to your kids and make sure that your kids are okay. Um, but as far as what we're going through, I think we have a history of asking for jobs and justice. When they marched on Washington in '63, they asked for jobs and justice. You know, during the 20 years after that, we needed jobs and justice. We went to the Million Man March in the '90s. We wanted jobs and justice. And even today, we still arguing for the same things. We still want jobs and justice. And at some point, we got to be able to kind of work these things out to where we can collectively get together and make them give us what we need. And I don't think we've been doing that. It hasn't been a collective effort. So I like that, we having these conversations. I like, that people, are getting more aware, of what's going on, and they kind of learning about the political process and, getting in tune, with what's going on, in this country and what affects them, and then learning who they need to reach out to make those changes, that they want made. There's one thing for us to want something. It's another thing for us to understand where we need to go to get it. Like we like complaining about minimum wage. That's a state thing. And that's something that we can get out of our state legislator, not from the government itself. We don't go to our senators for that. Michigan has its own legislator, and that's where we go to get minimum wage changed. And those are the people that we kind of contact. So understanding where to go to get those jobs or get that justice we need to look at home first before we start jumping into Washington and getting into national politics. So we talk about this all the time on this podcast. A lot of the stuff you need is right in your backyard.
Yep. So after watching this movie, and you hit on a key point there. I think we are at an all-time high on levels of understanding. Most definitely needs to continue to grow, and within our community, having an understanding of what's going on, using this platform that we have, or I shouldn't say platform, but these devices that we have and abilities that we have to seek information is at all-time high. Now all we got to do is, focus on how do we get people to look at this information,
Hmm.
because we know that people are starving for it, but a lot of them don't know where to start and where to look. So hopefully things like what we talk about, we continue to, you know, if nothing else, we want to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey,
I think
that's
um, one of the greatest flaws, at least of the Democratic Party, is that they don't know how to push a message out to people. Um, Trump, uh, as animated as he is, and as simple as he is, people like simplicity. People like to get their information in short, digestible bursts of information. So a lot of people, um, they see a meme and they take a meme that is created for a political context, but it's information, and they can take that as news a lot of times on social media, and they don't know the details of what's behind that information. They just see that somebody said something in a meme. For instance, the 400 billion or 500 billion dollars in Trump's platinum plan. They think that Trump's giving the black community $500 billion when that's just the money that they talking about having for infrastructure. It's not access to black people. It's not for black people. It's not dedicated to black jobs or anything like that. So I think the messaging and the way that the Democratic Party kind of get their message across, they need to fix that. And they need to be more consistent, and they need to be around and pumping this information and constantly engaging people outside of political seasons. That's a downfall. One thing I can definitely respect about the Republican Party is that they stay on point and they stay together. Something that we can learn from.
good point. Right now, I think everybody's just focused on individuals. Do a little more education, do a little more research. Good point. What else you got on your mind? I know it's getting late for our listeners. Thank you if you're still out there with us. We apologize for the lateness, but hey, this is something that's available on our social media, so you can always find it if you're not able to view it live.
Mhm.
If there are any questions, any comments in the chat, let me know. We can address those.
Right. That was just one thing that was brought up was herd immunity. Again, I don't know anything. I'm not that educated in herd immunity, but that's appears to be the the um the plan that the White House is going with to tackle COVID. Just get everybody sick as hell, as many people as they can, and hopefully, we'll all, become immune to it through that everybody getting it. So,
Yeah, but I've already seen studies of, or not studies, I'm sorry, reports. I don't know if it was here in our country, but I know overseas a person has caught the virus a second
mhm,
time.
right. Yeah, I saw that a few people, but and a couple people didn't make it. So, but then again, like we said, if you don't know anybody, that's had it or that's struggling with it, then they not, people don't really, it's not hitting close to home for them. It's not believable,
Right.
you know, which is, the most unfortunate thing. Um, as one, hold on, I think we have something. It was one other thing I wanted to cover, and it's
Okay.
not politics. It's not really political. It's just something that I saw online, something that we all that could happen to any of us. Um, and we kind of talked about it in our last CPL class, so I kind of wanted to share it with everybody. I'm gonna share my screen again,
Okay.
and I want everybody to see this. If they didn't see it, I think I posted it on the page, but something worth watching.
Okay.
All right.
That's crazy, man.
All right. So what we saw, I'm sorry that people couldn't hear. They saying they couldn't hear. What we saw was um, road rage. So a guy was driving, and then behind him there was an erratic driver switching lanes in and out of the lanes, and the driver got all the way up on the guy's bumper, and the guy tapped his brakes like some people do in traffic. When somebody up on you too close, you might hit the brakes so they back off a little bit. The guy bumped his car. Then the driver speeds around his car and pull a gun and pointed at him out the window. And then in his defense, when he sees somebody pointing a weapon at him, he pulled his weapon and started shooting. Nobody was killed or even injured in this situation, luckily. But the driver um, who was defending himself was well within his rights, because the other driver posed an immediate threat to him when he pulled the weapon and pointed it at him. That's a felonious assault. When somebody point a weapon at you, that's a threat. And so he took the threat serious. I don't know if the guy was trying to scare him or not, but he took it serious, and he reacted to it. And one thing I just want to point out to people and make sure uh, that people are aware of: just because you have a gun does not mean that other people don't have guns. There's plenty of
Say
guns
that
out there.
one more time.
Right. There's plenty of guns out there, and a lot of people got them. And so you just want to be careful while you out there. Don't get so tough where you think you're the only one outside with a gun. You're 9 times out of 10, you're not. And this guy reacted to the situation and he started shooting, which, like I said, he was well within his rights to do because his life was threatened when the guy pointed the weapon at him. So just be careful out there when you in your car. Let these people go by. I mean, we don't have to engage with people in traffic. If you don't know what kind of day they having, you don't know what he going to. We don't even know what he was trying to get to. So just by that logic, just get out the way, and you'll make it to where you're going. Let him go where he going. If he that much in a hurry, let him by. It's not that big a deal. So, and like I said, that could have escalated into something that was fatal. And luckily it didn't, and it was just over traffic. So I don't want any of us to get hurt in traffic, because I know I can get road rage really quick, and I am ready to set it off in a minute in my car over nothing some days. It's just like that with me sometimes. But I know myself well enough to know to get out of his way. because I know I got a gun in the car, and if somebody do that to me, I'm shooting. So I just get out the way.
Exactly. Great point. And man, the dude in the passenger seat, because it looked like he might have been asleep or something at first. I don't
Yeah,
know what he was doing, but the look on his face and his reaction to that
right,
situation was priceless.
right,
Uh, but not to make light of it, I agree with 100% with you on this topic. Let them go. You know, how many times have you had that person doing all that drama and y'all end up at the same light traffic signal
hmm
stop anyway?
right,
Don't engage them. Just you never know what people are going through. I can give you I can give you a scenario of somebody darting through traffic, and you like, look at this asshole. You don't know what they going through.
hmm
What kind of call they just got on their phone. You know, I know when my father passed away, I found out literally that he passed away in the midst of driving. I picked up the phone call and was told that my father had just passed away, and I was on the freeway.
mm
Not necessarily saying that I went into any type of road rage, but that wouldn't have been a good time to be engaging me with anything
right,
negative. You need to stay
right,
out of my way at that point.
right,
And we could think of so many things. So even though somebody's upset and doing what we consider to be road rage things, you don't know what that person's going through unless they put you in some type of physical harm. But it's just like when to shoot or not to shoot, which we teach in our classes. When that person is no
hmm
longer a threat to you, you can't.
right,
Try to use that same logic out here on the road. When that person has gone past you, go to your Zen place and breathe or count, whatever you got to do to just let it go, keep it moving, because it's really not worth it. Especially if you was in a decent mood or you was at peace
right,
wherever you was at before that person came and tried to take you someplace else mentally.
hmm
Remember that place and try to stay there.
right.
Great point. Yeah, so people, Christmas is less than 2 months or almost 2 months away now.
hmm
Christmas holiday. I know it's going to be tough this year because things are going to be so different. It's going to be different how you interact with people. A lot of people is going to be different how you spend money for the holiday. Don't let this get you down. This year, if you're not able to ball out and buy everybody whatever their little hearts desire, you got to not beat yourself up about this. For those of you that are going to still go out and try to make Christmas great because it's been such a tough year, and go run your credit cards up if you haven't already did that, trying to just survive. I strongly recommend you not do it because January is going to be a MF for you, because that's when the reality going to sit in. Don't get
hmm
yourself caught up in trying to make December 25th some great day.
right,
Let it be a day that you remember. If you hear that, that's the gift. This is a time. And I mean, I'm not gonna get into a huge holiday spending conversation, but if you haven't learned nothing since March of this year, hopefully you've learned that you need to move a little differently with the way you spend money.
hmm
So please, unless it's you got it. If you got it, I ain't talking to you. But
right,
for those of you who ain't got it, for those of you who acting like you got it for people that you be around, stop it. Don't let this year be the year that you go into 2021 further behind the eight ball than you already are because you tried to do something for December 25th.
mm
If you can just let the people close to you know how you feel about them. The money you spend on that, I say you do some research and look at trying to invest that money into something. And people say, "Are you kidding me? I'm gonna invest. What? I'm gonna go invest." I mean, average person, out here that's got a decent job, that's doing okay. If I'm not mistaken, the average people are spending, a few $100s on gifts around the holiday. You can get started investing. Let it be an earlier New Year's resolution. Start investing. Take half of what you was gonna spend on Christmas gifts this year and invest it. You know, you know what? If you ain't gonna invest it on yourself instead of buying, your kids a bunch of gifts and whatnot. Buy them a couple stocks and get them involved. Start teaching them. Whatever it is you can do, but try to change the narrative because it's blaring. Just the last one of your last statements.
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago, we was talking about this. I'm sorry, 60 plus years ago, we was talking about the struggles. And, just on cue, every 20 years, we still bringing it up and it's still the same issue. And here we are 60 years later and it's the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got to change the way we do what we do.
Right.
It started with us at home. And I know I'm just talking about one day, but I know a lot of people go through a lot of stress and put themselves in financial difficulties trying to get through this end of the year, feeling obligated to overextend themselves. So if you can really take heed and not do that this year, that's the advice I give you.
That's good advice. That's a really good advice.
Like I said, man, we didn't get to what I want to consider to be the end. It's about 5 minutes to 10 o'clock here on the East
Okay.
Coast. One more time, if you got any final thoughts, share
Um,
those.
my final thoughts are don't believe everything you see on social media, and don't get caught up in the hype. Uh, look into things for yourself, and make sure that you're not just uh, getting the wrong information. Look at the sources of things. Look into things. If you're truly interested, look into things and make sure that you are not being misinformed. And definitely don't get caught up in celebrity hype around elections. It's not good for us to get distracted by those kinds of things. Um, I think we need to stay on track and stay on par with what we want and understand, what's being done for us politically and where we need to go in that aspect. As far as money is concerned and investing, I'm going to recommend if you want to learn about investing, you can watch Market Mondays from Earn Your Leisure. We talked about them last time. You can watch Wall Street Trapper if you're from the streets and you just learn everything from drug lingo. He can help you out with that. That's the Wall Street Trapper. He's able to explain things in the simplest terms for people that may be
He
beneficial to
really
you.
is now.
Yeah. Or you can watch the Come Up series. The Come Up series is actually done by a lady by the name of Jolene GC and Mark Monroe. Mark Monroe is a venture capitalist, former, I think, employee of Microsoft, and the guy, he knows what he's talking about. He does options trading mostly, um, and I'm actually wearing a shirt today. This is called the back says the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. So
I like that.
you got to do the work. There's no shortcuts to success. You have to know and understand why you're doing what you're doing. If you're interested, just follow the Come Up series. You can find him on any social media platform. He gives you the formula for success for how he does his trading, and he also gives you the winning picks that he uses and that he's been using for a long time. So, um, if you're interested, that's a piece of advice for you, a place where you can go, where you can get some information. You can take that action or you can not. It's totally up to you. But that's all I have right now for this week. Especially, we kind of talked about those porch pirates. If you ordering a bunch of stuff online, be careful. People are out here looking for those packages to start coming in the mail so they can get them and walk off with your stuff. So just be careful with that. Be careful while we out here at night in the dark. Be mindful of what people are doing, where they are, what they saying, where their hands are. Um, and that's pretty much what I got. Just be careful out here and let's be kind to each other and spread love and not hate. That's all I got right now.
Before we get off one last time, Dan, let the people know how they can get in touch with us.
You can get in touch with us on our 1-800 number at 800-951-4866, 1-800-951-4866, and you can reach us on any social media platform at Athena Protection Service.
Awesome. Everybody, hopefully you have a great week coming up. One last time, shout out to the Lions. They actually got a lead and kept it today, so we can smile a little bit for that.
Yes, they did.
The coach earned himself at least another week of employment.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody enjoy the rest of your evening. And if you're looking at this on record, please give us input and topics you like to talk about. We're always willing to do it.
Yeah, go vote. We got early voting in Michigan, so go vote.
Vote. Yeah, can't stress that enough. Vote.
Right.
15 days to election, folks. Everybody have a good evening.
All right.
Take care.